You are listening to Scott H. Silverman's Happy Hour, a podcast released on the first 3 Wednesdays of the month. Family crisis, relationship crisis, addiction crisis, no two crisis situations are the same. They vary by family, individual, and relationship. They can encompass complex family dynamics, emotional distress, anger issues, and entitlements, and often involve substance abuse. This podcast addresses these issues and others surrounding the addiction epidemic currently plaguing this country and the world. There is hope and help.
Are you stuck, scared, or unsure of what to do next? If a situation with a loved one, spouse, or even a child has started to spiral, possibly becoming dangerous or threatening, it's time to seek help. My name is Scott H. Silverman. I help families navigate crisis situations. I'm the person you turn to in order to get you and your loved ones unstuck.
Welcome back to the show. This is Scott H. Silverman's Happy Hour. I'm Michael Glenn Moore, Scott's co-host. Scott, I understand that you sent some of your books, Opioid Epidemic, out to some very important people. How's that turned out?
Well, Michael, good to see you. I hope you had a good week. We were just talking about the weather. That's always very exciting. We'll have to be sure and ask our guests about his weather, because my guess is his weather has been nicer than ours. So I sent a book to every governor and a letter, very nice letter with a strong call to action. And I've heard from 7 in the last 5 weeks. And with the new book, The Opioid Epidemic, and it's amazing. It's really nice to get a letter from a governor that says, thank you for sending your book. I don't know if you've ever done anything like that before, JF, but it's just, I was trying to make an appeal where we're losing 240 people every day right now in this country, equal to a plane crash. And, somebody told me the other day that's very savvy with media. It says, if you have nothing to do with Biden and you have nothing to do with Trump and you have nothing to do with the COVID virus, the odds are the media may not want to talk to you right now, or whatever topic you may have. So it's been a little disappointing. Of course, July is here now and vacations are going on, but I'm going to probably do a telephone follow-up campaign. But, this issue ain't going away. There's no doubt about it. We're going to talk, I'm sure, a little bit about it today. So anyway, but good to be here and good to see all of you. And we just passed the 6,000 download mark. So thank you very much. And a friendly reminder, please, if you have an idea, you have a topic, you have something you like, you don't like, if you're unhappy with the color shirt I'm wearing, I can't change my hair length, but I can change my shirt. And little things like that can make a big difference. So don't forget, 619-993-2738. Call or text me anytime, because this week, a lot of knuckleheads have it. And when I call them back, they're not looking for solutions. They're looking for easy fixes. So, but anyway, I'm happy to take your call and I'll do everything I can to be a resource. Let's help save lives together. So on that note, I'm excited to introduce our guest today. And normally I know a little something about the people that come on this show, and your people, JF, found us somehow, and I can't remember exactly how. Maybe you do. But I've read a little bit of your story. You're a best-selling author. Not only a best-selling author, but you have 1,000+ reviews on Amazon. That I checked. I mean, you're like book like 8,254, and I think I'm like 1,943,016 or something. But my book just launched 6 weeks ago, so I have a couple years to maybe get close to bumping up. But that's not easy to do. So clearly, you've got a message that resonates with people, and we're going to talk about that and you today. So before we do that, let me just read a couple of things here. He likes to go by JF. I'm going to let him disclose his name. He may be having a higher form of anonymity of anyone I've ever met before, but we'll keep it at JF. He's been counseling people struggling with addiction, mental health, relationship issues for over 20 years. Evidently, he started when he was 15, so he's still a very young man. He co-founded Exclusive Hawaii, a non-12-step residential addiction treatment center with his wife, Joyce, in 2011. He's the creator of the therapeutic methodology Experiential Engagement Therapy, EET, which focuses on addressing a person's underlying core beliefs. He's well known for his authentic experiential techniques, which maximize long-term change. LF is a certified option process mentor counselor. Interesting framing. He's internationally certified leader in the Mankind Project, a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting men's personal growth. He's been in studies in human development, empowerment with Robert Hartgrove, Relationships, Inc. in 1980. He has been deeply involved in facilitating change in others ever since. LFS offers in-depth workshops, professional trainings, and speaking engagements to help individuals further learn how to change their self-sabotaging programming. Find out more about him. Go to the website, exclusivehawaii.com. exclusivehawaii.com. I don't even have to give you more than that. You forget that, you're in real trouble. So with that, I'm going to bring on JF, and we're going to talk a little bit about, because you have a non-12-step residential program, which is probably in the world of treatment. You're in a minority. And, I come from a 12-step model, but I run an outpatient program, and we believe one size does not fit all. And I get in trouble when I go to my home group because people say, you're not abstinence-based, you're doing MAT, you're doing other things. And I said, when it comes to saving lives, I didn't know there was a short list. I didn't know there was a specific list, and I didn't know that things that really work and tools that are available to people are excluded. So it's an interesting time, because when you look at the science and you look at the evidence, you look at the studies, and there isn't one particular platform that seems to be excelling over the others. And all of it says there's a huge percentage of those who will relapse if they don't stay engaged. So I love the idea of your maximizing long-term change. So with that, JF, what is the core? Well, just before we go to your questions, tell us a little bit about you and what's going on in your world and where you're at right now, because people may be surprised that I know somebody outside of San Diego.
It's good to meet you, Scott. And Michael, thank you for having this show. It's inspiring to me to see, you putting that much energy into doing a podcast, because it does change life. It does make a difference. Part of, I think, the core issue are the fact that most people don't understand that there are 4 basic needs that exist at the nervous system level that can make all the difference. So what you said about not being dogmatic about your approach is so important, because, something might work for somebody. There's other things that work better for other people. So it isn't about, anytime somebody's dogmatic, I always have a red flag in my mind saying, wait a second, your mindset is a little too narrow, right? So I think one of the biggest thing that I'm hoping we can inspire listeners today to understand is there are 4 pillars that I consider can make all the difference, which is, one is a sense of experience, and it's all experiential, experiencing a sense of belonging, knowing that your life matters on some level, being seen by other people, and being connected with nature. So those 4 things, they were brought up in a research by a lot of different researchers that have studied addiction, that have studied depression, that have studied, and they really found that these are core 4 pillars that are missing in our lives. So if we begin to nurture that, it can make a huge difference in our lives. So I've been, spending the last 10 years dedicating my life to developing a methodology that facilitate this kind of change, that is experiential, not just analytical. Because unfortunately, most therapies stay in a cognitive behavioral therapy, which is, think of it, you cannot learn to ride a bicycle by talking about it, right? You have to actually, at some point, get on the bike and start learning. And it's actually when you fall off the bike that you're actually learning how to ride it. So those are, 4 strong pillars that we can talk further about. How do you actually put that in application in your life can actually make an enormous difference.
It's funny when you said about falling off the bike. I'm in California, and the way things work here is when you fall off the bike, you end up suing the person that put you on the bike, and that way it gets litigated in the courts. But I like that example, and I think that's a straightforward one. And they say, if you haven't ridden a bike for a while and you get back on, the things will come back again. But that's the base piece of it. But I look at, I don't know how your philosophy is, but I look at this as a disease of addiction. Addiction is a disease, an allergy. And, I liken it to diabetes. And it's one of those things that nobody raises their hand. Hey, I'll take a dose of that for the rest of my life. It's one of those things that some people have, unfortunately. But there's help and hope, and there's treatment, and it's possible. But again, when I listen to these people, in the treatment world, not to denigrate the work that they've done as clinicians and therapists and psychiatrists and psychologists, but when they yell at me because I'm not, I ask them to show me the data about where their colleagues are shining, and it doesn't exist. So, and that's not to put anybody down, but if an individual needs a certain level of care, and to your point, and we're putting them into square one, and square one doesn't work for them, and they just get removed from the program, or they just have to leave, or they're told you're not a good fit, and then they go off and do whatever they're going to do. I mean, how is that helpful? So tell me a little bit about your program, the core, and then along with that, the core reason why people, you think, struggle so much in addiction. So
Okay.
take that in the order you want.
Yeah. So the core issue is that we function from what, I think that's what has made the book so successful, is that it introduced the concept that we function from the monkey mind. The monkey mind is a pre-programmed, conditioned way of thinking. And that way of thinking includes like wounded parts of ourselves. It includes protective parts of ourselves. These are all coping mechanisms, right? And so we don't realize that when we're triggered, we function from those coping mechanisms. And so as long as we're functioning from them, our thinking is circular, and we just keep coming back to the same behavior. And that's why people can't change. So it's the equivalent of saying it this way. It's like your nervous system is doing the thinking for you when you get triggered. And the main issue, okay, is in the mainstream, and even therapists that are super well intended, they focus on what we call pathology. So imagine, a simple example is, if you had a car and there's no gas in the car, do you think the car can go forward? Well, the answer is simple. No, there's no gas in the car. You got to put gas in the car. So doing therapy this way is exactly the equivalent of like somebody walks into a therapist's office and starts focusing on trauma or some of the issues that have happened. But here's the issue. The person at the nervous system level, when they get triggered, so they might understand a lot of things intellectually while they're in the session. Oh, yeah, my dad did this when I was growing up, and these different things, right? But when they get triggered, what they learn cognitively goes out the window completely. And so there's no skills to address what's happening in their nervous system in the moment that they're triggered, and they go to the bottle or the drugs or whatever it is they're doing. Most of them are not even conscious that there is a trigger to even begin with, right? So the real issue exists at the nervous system level. And the first thing that the nervous system needs is resiliency. It needs to be seen and recognized, and it needs to, so imagine that most of us don't realize. I had a funny example that just happened. It just cracks me up. I was in the yard with my son, right? And we're both working, and there's the sidewalk, and there's this old lady comes up with her dog. And I kind of turn around and I see her, and she's waiting to cross, and I'm kind of blocking the way. And I kind of finish my sentence with my son. And she turns around, she said, "Well, don't you know you don't own the sidewalk? I've just been waiting here." And I just take a deep breath and I look at her, and suddenly she didn't realize her dog was running across the street. And I go, "Excuse me, lady, you're losing your dog." Ah! She freaks out and runs after her dog. But in those moments, you see, my thought process, even though I've been working at this for a really long time, right? It's like my thought process was immediately defensive. I didn't say anything because I took a breath, but my defensive mechanism wanted to go, "You know what? You don't own the sidewalk." Well, where does a response like that come from, right? That's the monkey mind. The monkey mind is the mindset that think that somehow we can be threatened, that life and other people in situation can challenge your sense of self-worth. Did this lady challenge my sense of self-worth? Of course not. But that was what was triggered at the nervous system. It's like, I don't realize that in the moment, this lady acting like that, deep down, my nervous system goes, "You see, you're bad. You did something wrong." And it's not more complicated than that. It happens, for some people, and people who suffer from addiction, if they develop consciousness, they will see that this might happen, many, many times in a day, and after there's too many of those, your nervous system needs relief. So of course, you're going to go to drugs, you're going to go to alcohol, right? So we have to learn to tame this monkey mind. And the way in is through emotions in the body. It's through the nervous system and what goes on in the nervous system. Unfortunately, most addictive behavior is busy numbing the nervous system. So then you never have access to the true source of the knowledge that can set you free.
So the word that you're using, just because I have diminished hearing, I want to make sure I got, you're talking monkey mind,
Yeah.
as in monkey
Yeah.
mind.
You know
Okay.
how people say, I got a monkey on my back,
Okay.
and it's,
Good.
but the monkey mind it's a habitual, ingrained, conditioned way of responding that exists in the body, but it comes in the form of thoughts, constantly bombarding the person with thoughts.
So is it fair to say then, when a child, they say, we're talking about prevention and how to educate and inform and try to avoid some of these young people that are, taking counterfeit medication, and how do they make the proper decision at the moment when their friend says, hey, try this, it's only Xanax and it's cut with fentanyl, and they take it and die. So, and the feds say, and through their studies, if you don't catch somebody age 3 to 5, you're not going to have a lasting impression, inferring that people aren't teachable. But most behaviors, this is my question, most behaviors that people learn at a young age, it's generally from their parents or from their home life, correct? Emulating those. Is that where you'd say the monkey mind starts, or where does it what triggers it, and what feeds it, I guess, is my question.
You're totally spot on. So the monkey mind gets created between the age of 0 and 7.
Okay.
So think of it. Why didn't you do your homework? How many kids do you think are raised, and how many thousands of times do you think that the parent nagged the kid, why didn't you do your homework? Why didn't you do your homework? So it's just innocent. The father or the mother is focused on the end result. They want kid doing homework. It's a very simple formula. But what they don't realize is that after so many times, in the tone of voice that's used and what happens, the nervous system builds up a solid belief system that says, I'm not enough. There's something wrong with me. And then that's it. So when the lady on sidewalk wants to tell me that I'm doing something wrong because I didn't acknowledge her as she was crossing the pathway, then my nervous system goes right back to that programming I received from my dad that said, why didn't you do your homework? It doesn't matter what the person says or where they come from.
Yeah. It's funny, just this morning, I had to go to AAA to take care of some paperwork. And I got there early because I was anxious about anything DMV. And I'm standing there, and then this line starting to form, and I was there before anybody. This guy says to me, you're not in line. And I said, how do you know? He said, because this is where we stand in line. I said, well, first of all, who's the we? And second of all, how do we know I'm not the line? He goes, I come here all the time. This is the line. And then in the meantime, two people in front of us on the phone talking as loud as they can. I got a guy in front of me. He's going, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. So I closed my eyes for literally 3 minutes and decided to just say nothing. So I guess I beat and Krispy Kreme donuts is literally across the friggin' parking lot. I'm thinking, I need a donut. And I'm on this regime because I got to go to this wedding in September. So I'm about to have a friggin' heart attack. And all it is this guy wanted to put me in this line. And I'm thinking, wow. Anyway, the good news is I took a deep breath, and, I was mindful to practice some self-care and realize that even though I just watched this really cool self-defense YouTube the other day, and I know how to bob and weave differently at my age, anyway, it was just kind of weird. So I'm not sure which side of it, whether I'm taking the lady's side or yours, but I completely relate to all of that. All right. So let me, when you're talking, what I was thinking is, it almost sounds like if you can undo the monkey mind, you've got a potential teachable person in front of you, or at least have them understand it.
Yeah. And here's the thing. What's really bizarre, Einstein said it best, right? He said, you can't solve the problem from the same mindset that created it. So the issue is that's what we do. We have a monkey mind. And when we first realize we have a monkey mind, we want to use the monkey mind to try to get rid of it. And then all it does is circular thinking. And it's a shame-based, fear-based way of thinking that just spins on itself, right? So the monkey mind exists at the nervous system level, truly, and what it needs is integration. So if I take a deep breath with the example with the lady and her dog, okay? And I take a deep breath, and inside of myself, I just take a second and I just breathe and I say, is there anything wrong about me right now? And just, it's that quick, right? And then I can breathe again and can go, I can confirm absolutely 100% there's nothing wrong with me, right? So then my nervous system right in that second is going, oh, okay, that, so I verified it. And in that moment, I would have a totally different response. Something like I would look at the lady and say, thank you so much for pointing out that you were there. And you're right, I could have acknowledged you, and I see you, and you do matter to me. And so, yes, I'll pay more attention in the future. Thank you for pointing that out. So that response cannot come true, right? It's unless the nervous system, we don't realize this is the principle. Okay, to me it's simple. The solution is simple, but for most of us, we've been brainwashed that getting to the vulnerable spot inside the gut, right, is a weakness. It's something to be avoided at all costs, and that's why most people drink or use drugs. So imagine this principle that the threat used to be at a core level, used to be that there was a tiger in the bush. And if the tiger came out, you had to protect yourself, you had to fight or fly, right? But here's the thing, if you look at the conditioning and the modern society that we live in, very few of us are faced with a tiger every day. That's not the real issue. But the tiger's been replaced psychologically in your mind because of the conditioning we receive. We perceive what other people do or events in our life as a threat to our core value, of sense of belonging.
Okay.
And we don't realize that that's happening.
All right. Michael's never seen me pick up a pen before. There's other parts of my mind that you've triggered here. So we never talk about politics here, but when I'm hearing you describe that the mindset of how people think, react from your understanding and your studies, let's just take a look, for example, at the political environment, the environment now right now. And I'm not trying to say Republican or Democrat, but just the environment, how some people are just going, no, it's this. And the others are going, no, it's that. And there's such a divide, it feels like. It's almost like people have made a decision because their monkey mind won't let them look at anything that might be new or revealing. For example, the issue with what happened at, in DC on the 6th, they say if you watch the same, if we all sit down in the room, no matter who we are, we watch the same video, the fact that we're seeing something completely different is just, to me, it's amazing. How can people, some say it was just a regular day at at a tour. Others, myself included, are watching, what's going on with pepper spray and things being thrown, but yet we see it so differently right now. And, I just interviewed a politician, Michael and I did last week, and I said, look, I really need your help. He goes, well, the way we work is you bring your problems to us and then we do what we can to help solve them. I said, wait, what? How about this? How about you come to me as a subject matter expert with the opioid crisis and I'll help you? Because if I bring it to you, you're going to send it to an intern. An intern's going to put it up for public policy. Then they're going to study it. And 3 years from now, we're going to lose another, 250,000 people. And families are going to be in harm's way, and more kids are taken, so, and he and I go way back. So he got it. So he goes, I will have my people contact you. I said, good. Sounds like a threat. I'll hold you to it. So comment on that, JF, if you can. What is going on right now with our world? And I'm 67. I've never seen people reacting the way, and there's such a venomous tone. And, just like this lady today, God forbid the dog had been run over. It probably would have been your fault in her mind.
Absolutely. And if you look at the way this conditioned monkey mind works, is that anytime you can tell that this mind is active when anytime there's a strong emotion happening and the nervous system is dysregulated. So it doesn't matter whether they're pushing politically about some issue or whether they're at the grocery store or whether they're on the phone upset about something. This is the greatest illusion of all, right? Is that we think that something outside of ourselves can trigger us, but we don't realize that the real issue is that we are triggering ourselves by repeating the same thought pattern that basically what's in the computer, right? What was put in the computer from 0 to 7 was like constantly And this is what has formed this reactive way, right? So the people that you can count that are not operating from a monkey mind is when somebody is able to truly stay calm, right? And consider different points of view, doesn't need to defend anything, right? We know we've accessed that part of ourselves. We know it exists, right? But most of us don't have enough skills to consistently come back to that. There's times we can hold it, but the majority of the time we cannot. So it becomes all projection, especially politically. You know, if you think of a lot of people, they feel like somehow, let's say the Trump goers to a certain level, there's a sense where they feel like their freedom is taken away from them. You know, so it's just like, but where does that really come from? If you look at the programming, it's most likely being with parents or teachers in the way they were raised in such a way that says, you know, what you think doesn't really matter. You know, you need to be, you know, not heard, seen, but not heard, you know, that kind of constant. And it's not our fault, right? It's not our fault, but it makes no sense, whether it's politically or any other situation in your life, to trying to go externally to try to resolve the situation by blaming the stimulus or other people or events. It's going to go nowhere. It does nothing good.
You know what, I bet, and this is kind of a stupid statement, but I'll make it anyway because it's my show. I'd be willing to bet, based on what I asked and what you shared and what I've seen, that this guy may have the combination to the monkey mind and knows how to either hang a carrot or a cookie or throw a rock through the window or stimulate it. You know, someone says if you keep saying something long enough, even if it's a lie, people are going to believe it, you know, and I get that. Look, unfortunately, our time's moving through. So I want to, couple things. It's been awesome talking to you. And I hope we can have a deeper conversation, just the two of us to talk about, because I love the concept. And I've been a hopeless helper for most of my adult life. And I'm always looking for ways to open my own head and heart, you know, and I'm one of those people that likes to say that my mind is like a bad neighborhood. I never go there alone. You know, I try to take people with me, you know, like Michael, who, you know, understand hand-to-hand combat, you know, and sometimes a therapist, when you need someone emotionally, can do it. So tell me, what question, and we didn't really get into all of them, but what is it you'd like to be asked, or we should ask you that we haven't, that you want to share? And then we're going to go over to Michael and we'll come back to you, but I want to make sure you give people your information so they can reach you. And I'm going to get online and order my copy today. And I was hoping you'd invite me to come over to the islands and I'd bring you a copy of my book and you give me yours. But I'm kind of still now with the new COVID thing, you know, my monkey mind saying I'm old and I don't want to be part of the 3% club right now. So, but you know, risk taking, I just did this week and I'm pretty excited about it. I'm not talking about it, but I did it. So what question should we ask you, or would you like to be asked, that, or you want to share with our group?
Well, let's make sure, you know, as a side note here, that we do connect and that we go surfing or do something fun out in the elements. So Hawaii is an amazing place.
I love Hawaii.
Yeah.
What island are you on?
Big Island on the Hamakua coast.
And how long have you been there with your program?
It's been over 10 years now. We've been running the program. I've been in Hawaii for on and off, lived there. I'm 56 now. I've lived there for over 20 years.
Okay. And is there anything else like what you're doing here in the mainland?
You know, there is some modality in terms of therapy. There's a couple. One is called IFS, Internal Family System. Another one is called Neuroaffective Relational Model. But I would say for the most part, those are very niche type of methodology, kind of like mine. Yeah. I think we are very unique because there's not enough of this. There's not enough understanding of this. So I think, to answer your question, the depth of what I think the simplest message to understand is that emotionally, we're all the same. There's no difference emotionally. Absolutely not. It doesn't matter whether, you know, the color of your skin, what language you speak, where you come from. You know, one of the things I love about Hawaii is the culture is phenomenal as far as its knowledge. And one of the things they say in Hawaii is if you've got a pico and I've got a pico, then we came from the same place. And the pico is your belly button, you know? So it's just like, it's a simple understanding. And to me, I translate this in the understanding that emotionally, we're all the same. So if we learn that emotionally, we have to experience that we belong to each other. And if we don't, if we get triggered and we start fighting for our lives, then the thing that's going to happen is it's going to get ugly, and we're just going to create more and more separation between each other. So we have to learn to be vulnerable. We have to learn to tell the truth about owning our own feelings. And that in itself is a revolution. I talk about that in the book. There's a whole section on this, using your feelings as a guiding system, and it can change your life if you learn that one skill.
Awesome. Michael?
Yeah, JF, I noticed over your left shoulder there is a copy of your book.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you could take that book, open to a random page, and read us a paragraph, and then let us know what led to that paragraph and what comes after, just to give the viewers a sense of what your book is like.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. I'm going to grab something short here so that we don't go too far. So the anxious feelings form the basis of our programming, which is why what was then slowly built upon as we developed the ability to form beliefs. So years of stressful situation added to this programming, coming from a wide range of experiences and responses. Our parents did not have to tell us or scold us to create this programming. Even people who think they had a perfect childhood may have developed anxiety through other kinds of interactions. This could include experiencing a lack of control, not having enough of supportive structure, or living through a trauma at any age. So what exactly did the beginnings of our programming look like when we were children? Let's look at the programming forming messages received in two different households to understand this concept more fully. So then this goes into describing two different separate families. Okay, and I'll give you this simple example. So imagine that you're raised in a family, and this is the dynamic. You have a father sitting at his couch, and he's reading a newspaper, and you have a child. You have two kids, a daughter and a son. The son's playing with his truck, and the daughter is just playing with her Barbies, and they're just, interacting. And there's a jar of grape juice on the counter, on the little coffee table. And the son, as he moves with his truck, he just hits the table, the grape juice spilled on the carpet. And the next thing that happens is the father stands up and says, "God damn it." Okay. So just that scene, okay, if you look at what happens at the nervous system, those scenes that are repeated and repeated and repeated, the nervous system establishes a core belief there: I'm not enough, there's something wrong with me, and it keeps building. Now imagine for a second being raised in a family where instead of that, the father puts his newspaper down and looks at his two children and say, "Come closer, come closer." And the kid, both of them know that there's something bad that just happened, because we've already developed a conscience by the time we're 2 years old, because the amount of time you're told, don't put your finger in the electrical outlet and don't do those different things. We have a conscience. We don't realize we don't need scolding. That's not what we need. We need the nervous system to self-regulate when we know we've done something bad. So imagine in his family, the father brings them over and puts them on his lap, and it starts to breathe. And he just holds them. And he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything. And then slowly both kids' nervous system calms down. And then the father said, no matter what you do, I always love you. Why don't we go clean up this mess? And how many people, if you ask the question, this is the most telling, of our program and conditioned mind in our society. If you ask anybody, were you raised in a second family? The answer is no.
Okay, that's very powerful. Scott, do you have any more questions before we ask JF to give us our ending quote?
I not that we can do it in a group setting. I'll follow up with them.
Okay, JF, go ahead and see us out.
That was great. Very good. Thanks for being
so,
here, JF.
So the quote I'd like to leave you with is to understand this will if you're able to understand on some level that emotionally we're all the same, then the quote is this: you matter to me. You deeply matter to me. No matter what. I don't have to know everything about you or your history. I know that you struggle emotionally in so many different ways, and so do I. And you matter to me because of that.